Have you ever been too kind, only to feel him testing you, pushing your limits, questioning your heart? Today, we're uncovering why men test women who are too kind, and how understanding this can change everything in your relationships. There is a pattern that repeats itself over and over again in human interactions, particularly in romantic dynamics, that is subtle yet incredibly revealing. When a woman is exceptionally kind, when she goes out of her way to show empathy, generosity, and understanding, some men instinctively feel the need to test her. At first glance, it might seem contradictory. After all, kindness is attractive, kindness is nurturing, kindness is what most people seek in a partner. So why would it provoke scrutiny, suspicion, or even testing from men? The answer lies deep within psychology, evolutionary behavior, and social conditioning, and understanding this is key to navigating relationships with awareness rather than confusion. Men, in many cases, have been conditioned consciously or unconsciously to view extreme kindness as something that must be verified. Human beings are wired to seek signs of authenticity in those they depend on emotionally. And in the case of men who are confronted with kindness that feels unconditional, there is an instinctive question that arises. Is this real, or is it a performance? Will she tolerate anything I do? This questioning is not inherently malicious. It is a combination of protective mechanisms, socialized testing behavior, and the uncertainty that arises when someone encounters something they perceive as rare or unfamiliar. In evolutionary terms, men were historically conditioned to assess trustworthiness, loyalty, and emotional resilience in potential partners. A partner who appears excessively kind without discernible boundaries can unconsciously trigger a survival mechanism that says, I need to see the limits. I need to see if this kindness is sustainable, or if it will collapse under stress. It is not always a conscious thought, but it manifests in behaviors that resemble testing, probing, or even subtle challenges. Testing can take many forms. It might be passive, such as seeing how the woman reacts under stress, how she responds to minor provocations, or how easily her emotions can be swayed. It might be active, where a man deliberately behaves in ways that create conflict, uncertainty, or tension to observe her response. He is trying to determine if the kindness he observes is contingent upon his behavior or if it is genuine and steadfast. This need for verification stems from the deep human desire for predictability in relationships. People, regardless of gender, want to know that the person they invest in emotionally is stable, reliable, and authentic. When a woman demonstrates kindness that is unbounded and consistent, it is unfamiliar territory for some men, particularly those who are used to partners who negotiate, challenge, or limit their generosity. Excessive kindness can feel threatening in the sense that it disrupts known patterns of interaction. For some men, it unconsciously raises questions about imbalance, reciprocity, and control. There is an underlying fear that if they cannot provoke a reaction, if they cannot test boundaries, then they might be powerless or worse, unworthy of the relationship. Social and cultural factors also contribute to this dynamic. Society has long reinforced certain gendered expectations. Men are expected to be dominant, decisive, and occasionally assert control in relationships, while women are expected to nurture, support, and accommodate. When a woman exceeds expectations of kindness, offering unconditional support, patience, and emotional generosity, it creates a paradox. Men may feel admiration, but alongside it can come discomfort, because her behavior defies the familiar scripts they have internalized. They test her not because they doubt her character, necessarily, but because they need to reconcile this unfamiliar pattern with their internalized social rules. Testing becomes a mechanism to measure where they stand in relation to her kindness, to see if there is room for hierarchy, mutual respect, or emotional equilibrium. It is a subconscious attempt to restore balance in the relationship dynamic as they perceive it. Another layer to consider is self-perception. Many men carry insecurities about whether they are deserving of love, attention, and care. When a woman exhibits profound kindness, it can unintentionally trigger these insecurities. A man may ask himself, do I deserve this? Will she tolerate me at my worst? Can I meet her expectations? Testing her is often a way to reconcile these internal doubts. By provoking reactions, by creating scenarios where the woman's kindness is challenged, the man can observe whether her support is conditional or unconditional. This process allows him to calibrate his own sense of worth, to understand the boundaries of the relationship, and to measure the stability of the emotional environment he is entering. Psychologically, it is also connected to the concept of trust and attachment. Men, like women, form attachment patterns based on early experiences and relational conditioning. A man who has experienced inconsistency, unpredictability, or unreliability in past relationships or family dynamics may unconsciously carry the need to test those who display kindness. The kindness itself is so unfamiliar, so too good to be true, that his brain signals caution. He may not even be aware of the internal calculus happening. Testing becomes a way to reduce uncertainty, to assess the emotional risk, and to gain reassurance that the kindness is genuine and resilient. It is important to note that not all men engage in testing behavior, and the intensity and frequency of testing can vary dramatically depending on personality, past experiences, and self-awareness. Some men are secure and immediately embrace kindness as a gift to be reciprocated and honored. Others, however, feel compelled to push boundaries, intentionally or unintentionally, as a way of measuring authenticity. These tests are rarely about malice. They are about seeking alignment between internal expectations and external reality. The pattern can also intersect with traditional masculine norms that prize challenge, conquest, and earning trust. When a woman demonstrates kindness without apparent challenge or resistance, it can paradoxically unsettle these ingrained norms, prompting the man to create artificial tests to feel validated or empowered. Understanding this psychology is critical for women who find themselves in these dynamics. Recognizing that testing behavior often stems from internal fears, social conditioning, and attachment patterns allows women to respond with awareness rather than confusion. It highlights that the tests are rarely about diminishing her worth or questioning her character. Instead, they reflect a need within the man to reconcile unfamiliar kindness with his own internal narrative. This awareness equips women to navigate interactions with a sense of clarity, to maintain kindness without compromising boundaries, and to interpret testing as a mirror of the man's insecurities rather than a reflection of their own value. Furthermore, understanding this psychology empowers women to differentiate between tests that are a natural part of relational dynamics and behaviors that cross into manipulation, control, or disrespect. Testing, in its most subtle form, is a measure of curiosity, uncertainty, or insecurity. It is an attempt to map the terrain of emotional consistency. Recognizing the underlying motives behind these tests allows women to respond with composure, assertiveness, and self-respect. Instead of reacting defensively or over-explaining their kindness, women can observe, set boundaries, and reinforce that generosity is a choice, not a weakness, and that their kindness does not equate to tolerance for disrespect or emotional games. In essence, the psychology behind why men test women who are too kind is a tapestry woven from evolution, socialization, personal insecurity, and attachment patterns. It is a combination of instinctual drives, learned behaviors, and emotional needs that intersect in complex ways. By understanding these underlying forces, women gain the ability to approach relationships with insight rather than confusion, to recognize testing as a predictable dynamic rather than a personal failure, and to maintain integrity while navigating the sometimes perplexing reactions of men who are confronted with kindness that feels boundless. Kindness is a powerful force, but without boundaries, it can be mistaken for weakness, and this is where many women struggle when they encounter men who test their generosity. Responding with strength does not mean abandoning kindness, and it does not mean responding with anger or defensiveness. True strength lies in clarity, presence, and the ability to assert yourself without diminishing the generosity that defines you. When a man tests the kind woman, it is often a reflection of his own uncertainty or insecurity. And understanding that allows a woman to respond from a place of calm authority rather than reactive emotion. The first step in responding with strength is awareness. Awareness means recognizing the patterns of testing, whether subtle or overt, and distinguishing them from genuine conflict or disagreement. It means observing the behavior without internalizing it as a reflection of your worth. Many women feel compelled to explain themselves, to justify their kindness, or to prove that they are not naive or weak. Responding with strength requires resisting that impulse. It requires the confidence to understand that your kindness is not a liability, and that testing behavior is a temporary projection of the other person's uncertainties. Boundaries are the most essential tool in responding with strength. Setting boundaries does not make a woman less kind. It makes her more grounded and respected. Boundaries communicate clarity about what is acceptable and what is not, and they demonstrate that generosity is not synonymous with submission. For example, if a man deliberately pushes limits, speaking harshly, creating unnecessary conflict, or attempting to manipulate, responding with a clear boundary establishes that kindness has parameters. A strong response can be firm without being aggressive, assertive without being confrontational. It is delivered with calm confidence and reflects a deep understanding that your value is inherent, not dependent on the reactions or approval of others. In practice, boundaries are reinforced through consistency. When a kind woman maintains her principles, she teaches the man that kindness is not conditional upon him testing her or provoking reactions. Consistency creates a sense of reliability, stability, and respect in the relationship dynamic. Another essential aspect of responding with strength is emotional detachment from the testing itself. This does not mean becoming cold or distant. It means observing the situation without becoming emotionally reactive. When a man tests, he often seeks a reaction. He may be testing patience, resilience, or emotional composure. By responding with calm neutrality, a woman demonstrates that her kindness is unwavering and that her emotional state is self-governed. This level of composure can disarm manipulative tendencies and redirect the interaction toward genuine understanding rather than conflict. Emotional detachment allows a woman to assess the testing behavior objectively, recognize patterns, and respond strategically rather than impulsively. It is a form of empowerment that reinforces self-respect while maintaining the integrity of her kindness. Assertive communication is a cornerstone of responding with strength. Being able to articulate needs, expectations, and boundaries clearly ensures that testing behavior does not escalate or undermine the relationship. Assertive communication is not about aggression or control. It is about honesty, clarity, and respect for oneself and the other person. When a woman communicates assertively, she signals that her kindness is intentional, thoughtful, and not negotiable under pressure. She does not apologize for being kind, nor does she compromise her principles to accommodate testing. This form of communication creates a framework in which the man can engage respectfully, and it shifts the relational dynamic from uncertainty and probing to clarity and mutual understanding. Self-awareness and self-respect are intertwined in the ability to respond with strength. A woman who understands her worth is less likely to internalize tests or question her value in the face of provocation. She recognizes that kindness is a gift, not a tool for validation, and she maintains confidence in her decisions, actions, and emotional generosity. Self-respect reinforces boundaries and informs every interaction, making it clear that kindness is powerful but not negotiable at the expense of dignity or emotional safety. Maintaining this balance requires continual self-reflection and personal growth, cultivating a mindset that is both compassionate and resolute. Strategic response is also part of strength. Not every test requires confrontation or explanation. Sometimes, silence, patience, or subtle redirection communicates far more effectively than words. By choosing how to respond thoughtfully rather than react impulsively, a woman demonstrates emotional intelligence and mastery over the situation. She becomes the observer and the director of her own emotional landscape, rather than being drawn into reactive cycles created by external testing. Strategic response is about controlling the environment of interaction, maintaining dignity, and reinforcing that kindness is a conscious choice, not a weakness to be exploited. Maintaining kindness while asserting boundaries creates a dynamic tension that is both magnetic and commanding. Men, particularly those who test, are drawn to this combination because it challenges their assumptions while preserving emotional safety. Strengthful kindness communicates that generosity is not an invitation for manipulation, and that respect is the natural response to authenticity. It reshapes relational dynamics by showing that true kindness coexists with self-respect and firm boundaries, and that testing behavior is unnecessary when a woman's principles are clear and unwavering. Responding with strength also includes self-care and support. Engaging with someone who tests can be draining if boundaries are not maintained or if kindness is extended without regard for personal limits. Prioritizing emotional, mental, and physical well-being ensures that generosity is sustainable and authentic. Self-care reinforces boundaries and provides the energy needed to navigate testing behaviors with clarity and composure. Women who respond with strength understand that their kindness is most effective when it comes from a place of abundance, not depletion. Ultimately, responding with strength is about embracing a holistic approach, kindness grounded in boundaries, emotional intelligence, assertive communication, self-respect, and strategic awareness. It transforms relational dynamics, turning potential challenges into opportunities for deeper understanding and connection. A woman who responds in this way signals that her kindness is deliberate, her boundaries are non-negotiable, and her presence commands respect. She maintains her integrity while navigating tests with calm authority, ensuring that generosity is neither mistaken for weakness nor exploited as vulnerability. Strengthful kindness is magnetic, transformative, and unapologetically authentic, establishing a relational framework in which respect, trust, and genuine connection flourish.